just wasn't feasible to have 6 cheese factories within 30 miles when transportation became available. So at that time, Wilton Cheese Factory became, they needed a cheesemaker, and I applied, and I ended up coming here.
And what year was that?
That was in '67.
Yeah.
I always remember that because that was the year of Expo.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was when I was at Dixon's. At that time, they built the little cheese factory in Upper Canada Village, and when they for the opening ceremonies, because Sam All, of course, was involved in that as a dignitary, and so I ended up having the chore of taking down 10 or 12 of the big 90-pound round cheese and a load of whey for their opening day ceremonies, cutting of the ribbon, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting.
Do they have a cheese factory there? They do, don't they?
Yeah, they make cheese, yeah.
Yes.
Actually,
and where did that one come from? Did it come from Leeds and
built.
Granville, or it was built?
It was
wasn't.
built there,
It wasn't.
and,
Oh, okay.
They go way back. They actually fired it with an open fire underneath the vat, and they still do.
Oh, they do with an open fire.
They buy their milk from a creamery, so it's already pasteurized. They take it there, and they make it up the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And actually, the manager of Upper Canada Village phoned me about 3 months ago, and wondering where he could get 90-pound cheese boxes. So I have a few, but he wanted more than I was able to accommodate him with. So I put him in touch with the people in Belleville that made the last round cheese boxes that I was able to get. And I never heard back from them, so I assumed that they looked after him.
Yeah, because there were spin-offs, I know, from the cheese, such as the cheese boxes in the Wood family.
Benny at Roblin.
And Roblin.
Close friend of mine.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The cheese boxes, that was a long family history for them.
Yeah.
And when was the switch from cheese boxes to other presentations?
Probably in the 70s, they went to corrugated paperboard.
Paper, yeah.
And they were made in Belleville. But there was Benny Woods in Roblin, and there was the people in Bell Rock that had
right, just north of us.
And they restored that mill. I don't know whether it's still as a museum.
Yes, it's still as a museum, but yes, it is.
And they were making boxes up until 15 years ago,
right?
Just on a tourist attraction.
Right, and you mean cheese boxes?
Wooden ones, yeah.
And wooden ones,
yeah.
Right. I was talking to a gentleman whose grandfather, south of Odessa, started making cheese boxes, and his grandfather or great-grandfather designed a patent for a cheese box that was collapsible.
Really?
Yeah, and he sent me the patent for it, and he doesn't know himself whether they were ever produced or not. But it was sort of part of the, even though, let's say at UEL, where did the milk was brought from around the surrounding areas? There were, did farmers bring them in themselves, or was there a route? Was there a tanker? Or
there was 3 routes come into UEL Cheese Factory.
Yeah.
The Hay Bay Road, and then the road from Hawley down the Hamburg Road, and then the one from 33 Highway.
Yeah.
And at one time, when Brown's owned the cheese factory on Amherst Island, When they closed in the winter, there was several winters that we took their milk also.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, so that milk went over, because I remember talking to someone saying that they did send milk to my grandfather, and I was amazed that, well, he died in his 50s, but I was still amazed that there were people who were sort of part of that industry, who remember it well and remember the names and all of those things. So were they doing pasteurized or unpasteurized?
Raw milk.
It was raw milk. Now, I remember cheese from raw milk. And there's a subtle difference between that and pasteurized. Aren't they allowed to do raw milk production like in goat's cheese or things like that? Or is that just in Quebec that there's less stringent regulations?
You can. It's not against the law.
It isn't.
It's frowned on.
Because of
would rather
diseases and things
but
like that.
That being said,
Yes.
Years ago it was all raw milk.
Yes, it was.
And we made raw milk right up until 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
And it has a different aging capacity.
Yeah.
It just comes up with a nicer flavor.
Yeah.
But
and were you the person who made that decision to go from raw milk to pasteurized?
It isn't. Now you have to pasteurize to sell curd.
Yes.
Now the secret between the safety of raw milk is in the aging.
Right.
So once it's matured for 60 days, it's totally safe.
Yeah.
It's as safe as pasteurized.
Yeah.
So you go today. Most plants they don't make raw milk, but they don't make pasteurized for their aged products. They find a spot in the middle, and each plant can pick their own range. So instead of heating it to 60 degrees, which is legal pasteurization for 16 seconds, most plants run around 43, 45, up to 50. And that's still
the semi.
It leaves a little bit of the organisms in there that give you the preferred flavor.
Right, in order for that.
And if you can't age pasteurized cheese.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, that's the reasoning behind that.
So 5-year-old cheese or 6-year-old cheese, if you see it, and hopefully that it's correct.
It won't be pasteurized.
Right. It'll be maybe half pasteurized. Heat treated. That was the word, right. Was heat treated.
And the amount of heat treatment that varies between plants, what they feel comfortable with, and what they find that ages best for them.
Right.
So 43, 45. And what that does, most of the undesirable bacteria, if there is any in the milk, that will kind of take care of that. Maybe any feed flavors, barnyard smell, whatever, that'll kind of eliminate that.
Right.
But it won't completely pasteurize, because pasteurized cheese tends to go bitter after several months.
Right. So is it always identified as pasteurized milk on the exterior of cheese? Like all the processing cheese, right? It's all the processing cheese. Now, Wilton now is not owned by a farmer's court. It's owned by a large corporation.
No. It's a very small family business.
A small family business. And
there's a story behind that also.
Okay.
In 75 or 6, I was here from 67 to 76, and I left and went into other endeavors.
Yes.
And at that time, things weren't great for small factories, and I was gone for 3 years, and this factory got itself in financial problems, and they had difficulties.
Yeah.
It was going to close.
Yeah.
So at that time, I came back, and the Jensen Family in Simcoe.
Yes, yeah.
They had bought this Wilton cheese from the late 40s. And they built a little business in Simcoe, buying cheese, aging it, and distributing in their area. So they had a comfortable little family business going, and it looked like Wilton was going to be one of the gone with the rest of the the other plants that had closed. So, anyways, to protect their interests in Simcoe and the business that they'd spent a good deal of time building up, they bought this plant, the Wilton Cheese Factory, so they'd have an ongoing supply of the product that they felt. They felt really strongly that it was a totally different cheese, and their philosophy was different areas create different flavors, and I think probably that was right when you were making raw milk. The heat treatment and the pasteurization makes milk more uniform, but their philosophy was the atmosphere, the water in the area, maybe the limestone, the pastures, and they felt that Wilton had a distinct flavor and quality, and they were that convinced of that fact that they were willing to take the gamble and buy the plant, and that was in '79.
In '79.
Yeah.
And
so this is
you were here then.
Yeah.
And
I had just come back.
You had just come back,
Yeah.
and so that was a very positive move, was it?
It appears so.
It appears so, yes, because you're still surviving. Yes.
So it was '79,
Yeah.
so that's 27 years ago.
Yeah. And they were willing to invest in what needed to be done at that time. What changes, let's say, in the 25 years, have there been more changes, sort of technology-wise, that you've had to adapt to?
Not in when you look at the big picture and what's happened in all the other plants, and basically this has stayed the same. We still handle it all by hand, and we churn the curd the same way. And the big thing, we've put in enough new equipment to meet the standards and be able to still operate, but we haven't gone to automated equipment for in some of the plants the people never touch the product. It goes in a pipeline at one end and comes out a funnel at the other, and it's product. So
and how many people work with you or under you here at this at Wilton? How many people do you employ?
Full time and part time, we have 20.
You have 20 people.
Yeah. Now that's students that work on the weekends, looking after the store.
So you still have students who come in. Do they come into the cheese making at all?
Not really. Packaging,
like you did.
Packaging and looking after the store sales.
Right.
And we're quite proud of that. We've all the kids that we put through here and helped through school. And,
that's right, through university.
And they come back after 20 years. They've gone their way, and they come back and check in on us. Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah. Do you consider cheese making an art, as a craft?
It's not.
Or
what
did
it
used to be? Now tell me a little bit about what it used to be when it was a bit of a craft, because really you had to use all your senses, didn't you, in order to make cheese and to make cheese, good cheese, or to have a good reputation.
The years ago, it could be a different scenario every day, because you would have milk that shouldn't have been accepted, and it slipped by, and that happened, and you could have weather conditions were a factor then, and your culture. If you had culture problems, you might spend more time working the product in the vat to overcome problems created by culture deficiencies. Right. Whereas today, the cultures come out of laboratories, and they're kept frozen in 50 below Celsius, and you don't have the problems, which is good. Right. And but yeah, there was an art to it, but today it's the big plants. It's basically do it by the clock, and it's just it's streamlined. more efficiency,
More efficiency.
cost saving,
Cost
reduce the
saving.
labor.
Right. When,
And for example,
yeah.
Harrismith is gone. That's another one that's gone. And that was we were a close affiliate with them. They actually bought our whey. It was an outlet.
I was going to ask you what you did with your whey, because that was changing for some. Was what you do with the whey and disposals and environmental things. How did you do it at UEL?
The farmers took it back.
At that time, they could take it back, and they used that with pigs or whatever, right?
Calves, pigs, cattle,
right.
And whatever they didn't come back went down the creek.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's why every cheese factory was built
by a creek. Yeah.
So of course today that's unacceptable,
Sure.
and that's one of the big reasons a lot of the little factories aren't here was the environmental, and it's still with us today. You have to find a home for your whey. Obviously, the farmers don't come and get it anymore.
Right.
And so we were fortunate to have Harrismith close to us, and we had a contract with them, and they took our whey and processed it along with theirs. And I'm sure they made money on it, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But now that they're closed, there's another added
What year
expense.
did they close in?
2 years ago.
Was it just 2?
Yeah, just recently.
Just yeah.
And so now they're relocated in Trenton. It's under a Saputo name, and so they still accept our whey, but we had to now we have to truck it all the way to Trenton, which involved a better truck, a new tanker.
I was just going to say.
And they also wouldn't take it the way they did was right off the bat. We would just load it in it and take it over. Now they have to have it cooled, which was about $100,000 investment in cooling equipment.
In order to be able to do that.
And 8 or 10 hours processing to get that temperature down where they'll accept it.
Right.
So it's that end of the business is really self-destructive to a lot of plants.
To a lot of